what's up? This is OD from On the Air Sickle. The American Red Cross has sounded their alarm. There is a national blood shortage, and they need donated blood to stay afloat. These donations help support patients with chronic illnesses, such as sickle cell disease, who depend on blood to maintain a normal lifestyle and avoid pain crises. But what happens when the blood is in crisis? Our guests this week talk about the importance of having blood and why it benefits the sickle cell community. Kiera Jennings and Allison Morris are our next guests on the air. Season 2, Episode 5, Blood Crisis. Catch all the episodes of On the Air Sickled on our Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube pages. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to On the Air Sickled. I'm your host, OD, and it's my pleasure to bring you the good, the bad, the ugly in the name of awareness and advocacy. Listen, tonight we have a special episode for you all. We are talking about the national blood shortage that has hit our nation. This episode is Season 2, Episode 5, Blood Crisis. And our two guests this evening are our experts. We have a sickle cell warrior named Kiera Jennings, who will be talking about why blood is important for her and why blood is important for the sickle cell warriors and why there has been a challenge for her, especially to receive blood. And then we have our second guest, Miss Allison Morris, who will be talking to us from her expertise of the blood crisis and how it affects her family and why we need to support and why we need donations as well. We need your blood to help us survive. So without further ado, I want to bring on our first guest, Miss Kiera Jennings. You are live on the air.
Hello.
Hi, Kiera. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am well. Kiera, thank you for joining us here on the Air Sickled. I am excited because you actually had an interview that discussed the blood crisis recently and what we're going through as a community, what we're going through as sickle cell warriors. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been dealing with sickle cell and why you decided to come onto the show today.
Okay, so my name's Kiera. I'm 23 years old. I actually wasn't diagnosed with sickle cell at birth. I was diagnosed at 5. And, what kind of made me advocate more for sickle cell was when my cousin passed away. She passed away at the age of 20. She had a heart attack and a stroke. And I just noticed all the mistreatment we were getting. So that's kind of why I started advocating and putting more videos out there. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And speaking of videos, we actually have an interview that you did with ANF, which was I believe is Atlanta News First, and so they basically interviewed you to talk about the blood shortage and what the Red Cross is actually doing right now currently. Let's take a look at this video.
Shortage is putting patients who rely on those donations at risk. I spoke to a patient with sickle cell disease in LaGrange who says without this support, she can barely function on a daily basis. Now she's hoping more people will step up and donate.
It's a lifesaver. I truly do not think that I would be here without it.
The last few months for LaGrange resident Kiera Jennings has been very uncertain.
So this blood is it's a lifesaver. It prevents you from having strokes, heart attacks, the damage that sickle cell can cause. It prevents that.
Kiera has sickle cell disease and relies on donated blood from people who are B positive. But right now, the Red Cross says there's a nationwide blood shortage.
We require 12,000 units per day to support our patients across the country. And we have seen a 6% drop in donor turnout since this time last year.
And it makes it very, very difficult. And then right now with there being a shortage, they can't just pick through blood right now. So it's a very scary time for people like me.
It is a very scary time. And with this shortage, how does that make you feel knowing that, there's a challenge right now for our source of survival, basically?
It gives me like a lot of anxiety. I already have both of my hips replaced because of the sickle cell, and we started doing blood exchanges for me every single month. So basically, what that entails is them taking out the sickle cells and giving me 7 to 10 units of donor blood, and that's a lot of blood for just one patient. So this shortage doesn't only affect me; it affects other people with sickle cell or anybody else who may need blood. So it's really scary, like I said, because like before the blood exchanges, I was in and out the hospital. It seemed like I saw more of the hospital staff than my family. And then when they started the exchanges, I could breathe. I could actually do dance class and do, kind of live a normal life. So it makes me really nervous. And I have antibodies. And basically what that means is because I've had so much blood, my body is really, really picky about the blood that I get. So with there being a shortage, that means that they can't just skim through like they usually do because there's already a shortage. So it's I really yeah. I'm not very happy about it. I'm hoping that more people will understand how much this will help all of us and donate blood.
Sure, sure. And so tell me a little bit about your experience from now. You said you're in your 20s.
Hmm.
From the childhood, from your childhood, how was receiving blood? Was it really like, oh, I have to go through this again, or was it more like this is just who I am?
Like living with sickle cell, or just like since I wasn't diagnosed till I was 5, um, I was having symptoms before I was diagnosed at 5, and they just kept telling me that I was fine. So when I almost died and I was diagnosed at 5, it was almost kind of like confusing because these doctors were telling me that I was fine, that my parents were just dramatic, and I ended up having sickle cell. So it took a bit of adjustment, and I kind of went through depression and anxiety because like I couldn't do certain things. Like at school, they would go on the playground, maybe it was a little too cold outside, and I had to stay inside because I would go into a crisis. Sometimes I kind of just wished I could be normal. And then, just having to deal with school on top of like not feeling good or having to push through it. And then, like, the kids not understanding, it makes you feel like so indifferent. Like, you just kind of want to be normal. So I definitely still struggle with those things. But since I'm able to find my community on live, and thank you for having me, like it really helps that I can talk to people just like me.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what On the Air Sickle is about. Building a community of support, people that understand, and even people that may not have the illness or any connection to sickle cell, but they just want to know more. That's what On the
Right.
Air Sickle is about.
Yep.
I wanna bring in our next guest to join our conversation, Allison Morris. Allison is the founder of We Reign Sickle Cell Corporation, and she's also a certified sickle cell medical advocate. Allison, we want to bring you on. Let's go ahead and air you now. There you are. How are you, Allison?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm great. How are y'all?
All right. How are you?
Wo-
Good.
Wonderful. Allison, question. Now, you are a sickle cell warrior mom. Your daughter has sickle cell.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the experience that you had raising a child with sickle cell and the challenges that you have to face as a mom.
It is it was very frightening at first, I must say, because I didn't have a history of sickle cell disease in our family, let alone did I even know I had the trait. And I have the C trait. And so I didn't even know there were differences in
Mhm.
types of sickle cell that you could have. So that's still not common knowledge. And like I said, I did not know until I had a newborn screening for my daughter did I even find out that I had the C trait. So when they initially gave me the call and said your daughter has sickle cell, I had tried to do all the research. I love to read and ask questions, and so it was very daunting. They give you a book and then they just say, you know,
Right.
come in when you have problems. And so since she had hemoglobin SC, they said it's a milder version. They said it was, something that she may or may not have episodes and things like that. And so again, I was all like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And as early as 2 years old, she had her first hospitalization. And since then, it's been off and on. Maybe monthly, she will have pain crisis and will end up in the emergency room. So it's been a very scary journey, and my heart goes out to anyone, beta thalassemia, SSSC, we're all in this together. And I appreciate y'all for having me on, because as a mom, you want to give them the best life that you can, especially if it's something that they had no choice, in having.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about blood transfusions that your daughter may have had to experience? What was your experience with that?
Actually, she has not had to have a blood transfusion at this point. But I
Oh,
do
wow.
want to make sure she is familiar with the process, because there are others that in our community that we've, spoken to on a daily basis that have to do infusions, that have to do the blood transfusions. And so I don't want her to get to that point and then be alarmed, because she's 8 right now. But chances are, especially as you get older, your body starts going through changes, and uh, premenstrual, menstrual time period, that she may have to get a blood transfusion. So I'm trying to get ahead of it. And so with our foundation, we have partnered with the American Red Cross in doing our own local blood drives. And so I'm really doing a lot of research on all of that. And so I encourage everyone, even if you had transfusions before or not, to become familiar with it, especially if you have a child or if you're dealing with sickle cell and you may not have had a transfusion, still know what to expect and be an advocate for those who get them, because it is life-saving.
Yes, yes, it is. I want to talk to Kiera a little bit about the process for getting a blood transfusion. I see that you have your port access. Oh, I don't know if it's access, but
Yeah,
can
it's
you tell
access.
us a little bit? Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the procedure from beginning to end?
Okay, so I want to say this. I get blood exchanges because there's a difference between like getting a regular blood transfusion and a blood exchange. So
Mm-hmm.
with the blood exchanges, I have to go into the hospital like 2 days before the exchange. And what they do is they draw labs and they do a type and cross. And basically, they do that 2 days before to make sure that I'm getting the blood that I need and I won't react to it. And then I come in 2 days later. I come in, they'll take my blood pressure, do my temperature, and then they give me IV Benadryl and Tylenol. And the reason why they give me that is to lower the chances of having a reaction to the blood, because that can be very common, especially once you're like me having to get the blood every single month. Your body tends to be more sensitive. So, and then after that, what they do is they access my port, and the port is like a device that goes under my skin. And I have a double lumen port, which is basically like, you know, 2 ports, but it's connected. So they access that, in one line takes out the blood, and the other line puts in 7 to 10 units of donor blood. And so that goes on for about 4 hours. And then after that, they take the needles out, patch me up, and I go home. So yeah, that's kind of, it's a long
How long
process.
have you been doing? How long have you been doing exchanges?
I have been doing exchanges since I was like probably 18. I'm 23 right now, so, and it's
Wow,
monthly. It's
wow.
tiring, but it has like I said before, it's made my life worth living, because before I was just like in too much pain and too fatigued to do anything.
Hmm. I have the pleasure of being able to speak from both experiences, because I too get exchange transfusions now.
Okay.
Excellent way to really dive into the process of the exchange. Um, for the regular blood transfusion, it was at one point it was every month, and then as I transitioned from adolescence to adult, it became as needed. And their concern was always, the high iron overload, and making sure that I wasn't getting so much blood transfusion that, you know, it affects my liver, my kidneys, and all that good fun stuff. So still a concern.
Yeah.
But the transition, I can, second you on that. The transition between regular blood exchanges from monthly to as needed when I'm in a pain crisis, to, going back to monthly but exchange, I feel a lot better. I
Yes.
have a lot more energy, not the day of, but I'm noticing that there's a distance between the crisis events
Yeah.
and hospitalizations. So it's really been a benefit. Allison, can you tell us a little bit about We Reign? How did you start that organization? What's it about, and why did you find that business?
Definitely. We Reign Sickle Cell Corporation was started because of a lack of resources and in close proximity to where we live. My daughter was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They had a very close network. We had clinics every quarter. It was a tight community there. We lived in Atlanta, where there's a plethora of resources there as well. And then I moved back home, where I'm originally from, in Northwest Florida, and our nearest hospital where she can be treated is an hour away. And so, and then there weren't that many people that were, organizations that were out in the community educating people on sickle cell disease, because we live in a predominantly Caucasian area. So it was one of those culture shocks, like,
Yeah.
okay, what can we do to help the community, because we do have a sickle cell community here. How can I help them not go through what we had to go through with trying to find out which hospital to go to, because we had went to other hospitals that turned us away, or we had to be transported because they didn't have adequate resources. So We Reign was blossomed because of that. I'm sorry, I'm losing my breath. And it's just been a blessing, because we've obviously met you and your wife Chardonnay through the patient advocacy program. We're meeting so many advocates and so many warriors that are just taking it to the next level, and we want to be a part of that, about part of that movement. And the Red Cross, we did a blood drive with them. That was one of our first objectives, was to make sure we promoted the blood drives as well as sickle cell trait testing, because that is something unique to the American Red Cross, that along with your blood donation, they test for sickle cell trait. And so we want to make sure that people know their status, because that's how I got to this place in the first place. So there's a lot of the gift that keeps on giving, as far as the situation we're in before and versus now. So we feel like we're a part of the community now.
Awesome. I want to read this statement. This is from September 20th, and it's on the American Red Cross page. It says the American Red Cross declared a national blood shortage on September 11th, citing a critically low blood supply level that dropped nearly 25% since early August.
Mm.
And then it goes on to say that when supplies are low, it can often take weeks for inventories to rebound. The Red Cross estimates they must collect 10,000 additional blood products each week over the next month for the blood supply to reach sufficient levels and meet hospital and patient needs. What's interesting about that statement is I've been so focused on, of course, sickle cell, but I mean, the American Red Cross is not just providing these resources for sickle cell patients, but cancer patients,
Everybody.
people
Yes.
who, have gone through critically, damaged organs or whatever the case may be, accidents, blood
Right.
wounds. So the fact that there is this national shortage is extremely scary, because when it comes down to me being in the hospital and I notice my hemoglobin gets to a certain point, and I know to advocate for myself and say, hey, I'm getting to a place where I need a blood transfusion. I know the last time I can remember when it was really an issue for me was back in 2022 when I had COVID. I wound up having COVID and I needed a blood transfusion, and my hemoglobin, unfortunately, the hospital allowed the hemoglobin to drop like 6.3 to be exact. And my normal was 8 for me to regularly operate, and then a 7 for me to say I need a blood transfusion. And so, but when I was waiting for blood, it took at least 24 to 48 hours before they actually had it in the building. They didn't even have it in the building. So it just goes to show you the dynamic of why it's important for people to donate blood. I want to ask you both this question because I've heard this statement brought to my attention. Is when I'm donating blood, how do I know if I want my blood to go to sickle cell patients? How do I know my blood is being used for that purpose instead of being used for the purpose of something else or some other donation drive or whatever the case may be? What do you guys say to that? I'll start with Allison first.
Okay, yeah, I would say that the American Red Cross has been around for a long time, and they know what they're doing in terms of uh, categorizing your blood. So I think that if we increase our African American, it's a race thing at this point. If we increase our African American donation population, 1 in 3 African Americans have already matched for sickle cell patients. So I believe that this is a PSA to all groups. This is churches. This is fraternities, sororities, organizations. We all need to come together and talk about it and be about it and host these blood drives. They have a sickle cell initiative specifically for this. And so it would not be, it would be contradicting if you have a blood drive and it doesn't go to the, sickle cell patients. But we need to donate this blood. And then on the app, it also tells you where your blood is going to, the hospital and things like that. And so it's a really great app to use, the donor app.
Excellent. Kiara, what's your thoughts?
I just say donate because, Red Cross, like she said, they know what they're doing. And I think, just saving anybody's life is enough. And the reason I say that, because it could be you. It could be you getting in a car accident and you needing that blood. So, yes, we need blood, but so does other people. And I don't think people realize that Red Cross, like, I have worked with them many, many times. Like, it's not just giving blood for sickle cell patients. It's for car accidents. It's for so many things that you would not think would happen to you, but it does sometimes. So I get you wanting to help out sickle cell patients, and that's lovely. But I think that you just gotta just give and trust that Red Cross is doing the right thing. And like I said, I've worked with them many times, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to what's in your heart. If you're giving in any capacity, and the minister is coming out in me right now, but if you're giving in any capacity, it's one thing to give and then want to be recognized for your giving. And it's another thing to give and say, listen, I'm just giving because this is in my heart to give, and I feel like it's important for people who are able to give, because I'm not able to give, but for people who are able to give, to take that time and spend, I don't know how long it will take, an hour, maybe 30 minutes, to donate blood. Let us collect a couple of tubes, ship them off to whatever hospital needs it, and then at least you're doing a service to a greater population than one that you can serve in your own individual community. So I want to talk a little bit more, Kiara, about what is some of the frustrations that you have when it comes to this topic of, there's not enough blood. What's going to happen? You talked a little bit about your anxiety. What are some frustrations that you have regarding this?
So, I had the last time when the blood was short was I think during COVID. And oh my goodness, it was around Christmas time. And I I don't think I realized how much the exchange was helping until that, because I couldn't breathe. I was having like, I was actually passing out like on Christmas because I couldn't get it. I think I was like 3 months out from getting blood, or either 2. It was coming close to 2. And so I think that's why I do have the anxiety of thinking, okay, if my labs do drop, what are they going to do if they don't have blood? Because my choice was just to be with my family. Because I'm
Sure.
like, you can give me fluids, as you see, I'm Access, but I can do all that at home. So I chose to be with my family. But I think one of my biggest worries is just like feeling that pain and can't breathe and the dizziness. Like, I say this all the time. I know I just said it, but you don't realize a treatment is working so well until you don't have it,
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
oh man.
That's facts.
Because I
What
was like
about
thinking,
what?
I was
Oh,
just
go
going to
ahead. Go ahead.
say, like, I was thinking in my head, was the pain this bad beforehand? I was like,
Right. What's your supply closet look like? I know mine. I have medications all over the place. I'm like 2 seconds away from being like, "Hey, you want some? You want some? $5."
like
I got DVDs.
so much stuff. I have IV fluids. I have the Access kits. I have like everything because I'm tube fed as well. Like when I tell you, I got a whole medical.
Wow.
I have a whole medical closet. It's crazy. I actually
Wow.
have like
Tell
a
us a little
thing
bit
where
about that.
so I won the genetic gene pool. So I have sickle cell, but I also have another rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So they like play head to head, who's going to make me suffer more is what it feels like. So that's why I'm tube fed. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And Allison, what's your routine for your daughter?
Yes, Miss Rain. That's her middle name. Miss Rain. She has her she has her pain management schedule that we're on. She basically kind of tells me how she's feeling, and then I have to gauge whether or not how serious it is. But she's been really good. The older she's getting with letting me know, hey mom, my head hurts, my arm hurts, my leg hurts, whatever is going on, and I have to pay attention to that. I have to listen to that. I told her teachers, let me know, if she's saying she's having trouble breathing, I'm telling them what to look for. We try to stick to the Motrin as the baseline for pain management. But of course, it escalates and you can get to the morphine and the emergency room regimen that we have to, kind of rotate until she starts to feeling better with our half normal saline. Shout out to Dr. Simone for educating us on all that.
Is
I mean,
awesome.
we have to
Yeah.
self-advocate. and
Dextrose.
yes, abnormal saline. So all these things, it's just you have to stay on top of it. And then even like my daughter does ballet, and so days before, we have a recital and things like that where I know she's going to be excited. I know she's going to be putting a little stress on her body. We'll go ahead and start like hydrate, drink your water, do your smart water with selenium, and we're going to get ahead of this, hopefully so that you won't have to be in so much pain. And we also learned in our class about organ failure. The pain is not just a pain that's just going to be there and go away. That is organ damage and tissue damage happening.
Right.
So, we have to minimize, those episodes.
Absolutely. Well, I
Can
want
I?
to transition. Yeah, sure.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you, like, how is that like with the teachers, like with the hydration? Did you? Because I know my mom was like, hey, she has sickle cell, she needs to be able to hydrate during class. Like, did you kind of have to go through that with her teachers and stuff?
Of course, every year, every year, we've had to have conferences, and I said every year besides, and I paused because 2020 was when she was started kindergarten, so everything kind of changed because we did an online school, so we were at home, and so basically 2020 we didn't even go to the hospital. We didn't have to. She was quarantined the whole year. But yes, going into school, I remember last school year was very difficult with PE and things like that. Even though I told them over and over again, it's kind of like, how do you know, focus on one child when you've got, you know, all the other children there? And so I had to pull in about 9 people in the room. I said, we've got her doctor, we've got her nurse, we've got our advocate, we've got the school nurse. You know, we pulled them all in there. And I said, if she says she's in pain, let her sit down. Give her, you know, make sure stays hydrated, and remind her, because she, you know, don't let her go a whole day without drinking water. Somebody in the comments just said, I got exempt from PE. Those are things that you have to discuss with the school, and maybe come up with a plan on their IEP or their 504 to allow them to still participate, but, you know, take a lot of breaks and things like that. So it was a challenge. This year we're in a private school and they are completely on board. They're doing all the research with me. They're very supportive. So we've been blessed in that respect.
So yeah, I wanted to transition. We have one question that's in our Q&A, and it was asking about developed antibodies. So I know that Kiera, you spoke a little bit about that. Do you mind talking a little bit more about the antibodies and why that's such a problem?
Yeah, so I actually have 9 antibodies.
Wow.
It makes it extremely difficult. Like, I was life flighted not too long ago with my hemoglobin of 4, and it was like the most scariest thing I've ever been through, because it was them talking about in the helicopter. Basically, the plan was, if I were to be unconscious on the way there, they were going to give me the blood and treat the reaction. And that was scary, because I was basically having to tell them, like, okay, do you want the blood if you go unconscious? Or, like, because it was that low. I mean, and I think, like, Allison said, like, I'm an hour away from my doctor as well. That's why they had to air flight me.
Wow.
So yeah. And that's why it's so important for them to be able to have enough blood to pick through, because I don't know, my body's just really picky.
Pray for us.
You talked about
Yes.
you talked about having or observing this conversation in the helicopter, and you're an hour away from your doctors. How do they? So when you call 911, do they, like, let me just send a helicopter with the blood? Like, how does that happen?
Okay, so I was in the ER. I actually walked into the ER and they were kind of shocked when they took my labs. They're like, how? I don't know. But so it was I think my hemoglobin was a 5 when I got there, but even though, so my nurses, thank God for my nurse. So usually they give me all medication and I stay awake. But they were noticing that I was sleeping a little too hard. And that's when they ran labs. And they said I didn't even wake up when they stuck me. So it was really my nurse that saved my life. So after that, they were like, oh no, it dropped more. Like, the ambulance isn't going to be here in time. They're on the way to come get you. And so when you're getting air flighted, they always have blood. And they were asking the nurse, do you want us to give the blood? And she was like, well, she has antibodies. And so I'm just hearing them discuss, okay, well, if she goes unconscious in the helicopter, of course you're going to have to give her the blood. But they were also talking about how to deal with the reaction, because when you have an antibody, that means that your body is going to react to it, and that can be deadly. So thank God I got to the hospital and they didn't have to give me the blood. But that was probably the most scariest moment of my life, not knowing if I was going to get to my hospital. Because I will say, because I have antibodies, my hospital usually has blood put up to me, like put up for me. Or I have one particular donor where they'll go and, I guess, ask if they donate or see if there's any from them, since I do have antibodies.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And Allison, your daughter doesn't. I know you said she has SC, but does she have any antibodies?
I actually don't. I'm not sure. Now y'all gonna make me have to go back to my doctor and ask what is going on. And a lot of this is just finding out as you go, because like I said,
Yep.
Sure.
you don't know until you know. And I appreciate you, Kiera, for sharing that with us, because if it wasn't for our little Facebook group and
Right.
group that we have with the patient advocates, I'm learning a lot, and so hopefully these things will help her and others that are watching tonight. But yeah, we're gonna find out what her antibodies are. I'm gonna find out.
And some of the antibodies can come from certain blood.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. With the mixes, I do know her blood type. I did ask them that because I was like, I don't know her blood type, and they're like, well, you'll find out if she needs blood. I'm like, isn't that after the fact? Like, I need to know
right
time. So yeah, that's the conversation you have, and they literally looking in your face like, well, we've never needed to have it because she didn't need it at this point. I'm like, but you still need to know. Yeah, I need to know.
Because I think they explained to me, like, usually the antibodies are like when you start getting blood over time, and that's how they kind of explained it to me. And it's crazy because there's like, oh, it's a warm antibody or cold. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I gotta research because
it's a layman term.
I'm like, I don't under antibodies. Got it. Oh.
I will say that's one of the reasons why I love when I hate going to the hospital, but if I have to go to the hospital, my wife, she knows the language, so
Yes.
I'll be like, what they say?
Right, my mom's a nurse.
She can translate for me. I think it's like the secret sauce in my back pocket when my wife is present, because they will make decisions for me that I have no clue what they're doing. And maybe in recent years, I would say I've started being more not defiant, but just kind of standing my ground and say, hey, look, stop making decisions without me. I don't want to take any medications that you're giving me until you have a conversation with me to explain why I'm getting this medication. And that's the biggest thing, and because they'll be like, oh, the doctor ordered this, so here you go. And I'm just like, for what? And patients need to know that they have the right to refuse, they have the right to make an educational decision on their care. It's part of the initial paperwork that we sign when we go into the hospital. Patient rights. I always say get a copy of your patient rights if you don't know them. If you know them, fine. But if you don't know them, get a copy of them, because there's a lot of rights that we have that we are not utilizing because we're uneducated about it. So
I will say to that point. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say to that point that I guess the new procedure or standard is that they give, in pediatrics at least, they give you fentanyl nasal spray whenever you're having a crisis, because they say that we want to make sure we give them the fast acting drugs until we can get the IV in, until we can get the other administer other meds. And I'm like, the last couple times that she had it, it was a struggle just getting the nasal spray up there, and then by that time we could just go ahead and go straight to what I know works. And so everybody does what's best for them, but we've been declining every time we go in there. I was like, let's not introduce fentanyl.
And I'm grown, like I feel like them just trying to put it up my nose, I'm already panicking and the pain is worse. So it's just at that point, no man.
And they're like, well, it works on 40 to 50% of. I was like, 40 to 50% ain't enough. I'm sorry.
That's low.
That's low. And only one doctor told me the actual. I was like, how many people actually say it actually works? And he was like, it's a 45, 40, 50%. I said, okay, so no, we're not going to do that.
Right.
Let's just go with what works.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to give you all the opportunity to speak to our viewers. Normally during every episode, I try to give the stage to our guests to speak to our audience members and, give them some encouragement, some motivation, or just a wealth of knowledge that you have in this moment. And now I want to turn the conversation over to Kiera first, and then we'll go to Allison. Kiera, it's your stage.
Okay, so like my advice to anybody just struggling with sickle cell or anything, like I know it is so easy to think about all the bad things, but I always tell people on my live on live on TikTok, like find a lifeline. What I mean by that, something that you enjoy, something that you love, because you need to be reminded that life isn't just pain and struggle and things like that. And I feel like it's also like a mindset thing now, and that can be hard, but just don't give up. I can't tell you when things are going to get better. I can't tell you when, but I can tell you they are. That's all I got to say.
Allison, what would you like to say to our guests?
Yes, I was actually getting my notes together because you may know what I'm about to say. Stay connected, and for the caregivers out there, we do have our third annual virtual sickle cell caregiver summit that is being presented by the Sickle Cell Community Consortium, and so it's from the November 16th through the 19th, and there's a plethora. There is so much information. There's a community. You can connect with others in your area, find out your community-based organizations, and just connect and find out more information about how to care for your loved one. And so I'll be speaking on Sunday the 19th. But like I said, each and every day is going to be things that our caregivers are going through. We know the patients, we know the warriors are fighting every day, but we are right there beside you all, and we're fighting for you as well. It affects us as well. Make sure that you also drinking your water, getting your mental health together, because it is a very stressful place to be in. And so that's my advice to everyone. Make sure you have your advocate, your care team together. Make sure you have your care team put together. And if you want to register, go to scdcaregivers.org for the summit, because be there or be square.
Thank you so much, Allison,
Thank you.
Kiera. Ladies and gentlemen, Allison Morris, Kiera Jennings, our guest this evening. Ladies, I'm going to put you in the green room. Don't leave us.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Hey, you all. It's been a pleasure speaking with Allison and with Kiera this evening, talking about blood crisis. If you are able to donate, I want to encourage you to find your local Red Cross or donating blood center and give. As Kiera said, as Allison said, it could be to save a life, not just with sickle cell, but anyone that is in need of blood. And with there being a national crisis right now, we need all the blood that we can get to survive and to push and to enjoy a normal life with our families, just like you would want to. So thank you all for tuning in for this evening. If you all would like to be part of the show, you can always go to our website at www.ontheairsickled.com. If you go to that website, you will be able to fill out the Share My Story tab where you can fill out your form, and then that information will come to us at On the Air Sickled. We'll reach out to you, and you can be our next guest on the show. I never want to leave the broadcast without giving you information about our vision. So I have this tab that says share the vision, support the mission. So the vision is always that we would air the good, the bad, the ugly in the name of awareness and advocacy. The mission is threefold, right? We want to make sure that we keep On the Air Sickled going. We want to make sure that we are able to sustain our audience members. We want to make sure that we're able to get the information of the warriors out to the public. And in order to do that, we do need your support, which I'll get to in a couple of minutes here. But the second component of it is that we want to also encourage sickle cell research and help to find a cure. We want to be able to give back to the community, whether that is donating to NIH for sickle cell research. We want to improve those opportunities for the greater community. And then the last component of the mission is to make sure that we are able to flip the bill, is what I like to call it. Flip the bill. The Flip the Bill campaign is basically an effort that is on my heart to be able to support sickle cell warriors. Maybe there's a sickle cell mom who's in the hospital and she's single and she can't provide for her children, or a sickle cell student who's in the hospital and can't continue school. Well, On the Air Sickle wants to be able to support their books, or pay for a semester, whatever the case may be. Our goal is to give back to the sickle cell community. So there's a way that you can join our mission, and that is by donating. We have a PayPal, so you can donate at On the Air Sickled OD. Any monetary gift that you feel led in your heart to donate to our community. Again, it will be towards our mission and to keep on providing the services for On the Air Sickled. As you know, nothing is free in life, so we want to make sure that we're able to do that and be successful with it. So if you would like to follow us, please follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube. Maybe you can share this episode with a friend, a loved one, maybe someone who doesn't have sickle cell, but they want to know more. And so we are on YouTube, and you can find all of our episodes there on Facebook and YouTube at any time. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of On the Air Sickled. You've been listening to Season 2, Episode 5, Blood Crisis, with our special guests, Allison Morris and Kiera Jenkins. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening, and until next time, stay strong. What's up, family? Thank you for tuning in to On the Air Sickle. Our goal is to truly air the good, the bad, the ugly in the name of awareness and advocacy. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can share it with your friends and family on our YouTube page. Make sure to subscribe so that you catch all the alerts when we go live. Also, follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook and TikTok. We all have a story, good, bad, and even ugly, of our sickle cell experience. So, I think you also have a story that needs to be heard. Do you want to join the show? Go to www.ontheairsickle.com and fill out the Share Your Story format. Our team will get back in touch with you, and you could be our next guest live on the air.